There comes a moment in life when the pain caused by others begins to lose its power over you. Not because they have changed, but because you have. What if the secret to never being hurt again isn't about avoiding people, building walls, or numbing your feelings? What if it lies in a radical shift inside your own mind, a transformation so profound that it alters how you experience every interaction, every conflict, every perceived attack? This mental shift doesn't erase the reality of hurt or betrayal, but it changes your relationship with pain, making you immune to its paralyzing grip. You've probably felt it before: the sting of criticism, the agony of rejection, the suffocating weight of disappointment. At first, it feels like an external wound, inflicted by someone else. But the truth is more unsettling. Often, the wounds that bleed the most are the ones we carry inside, born from beliefs and patterns we have unconsciously accepted as truth. This shift challenges those old beliefs. It asks you to question where the hurt really comes from and who has the power to give it meaning. Imagine stepping out of a cage built not by your enemies, but by your own fears and stories. Picture a freedom where no insult shakes you, no abandonment fractures your core, and no betrayal can unsettle your peace. This is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about reclaiming your sovereignty, your inner sanctuary. It's about learning that the only true injury is the one you allow to fester inside. When you master this shift, you don't just survive the storms, you become the calm within them. In this video, we will explore this transformative idea, uncover how it works, and why it's the most powerful act of self-love you can ever commit to. Most of us live under the assumption that pain comes from outside, from the words spoken, the betrayals endured, the injustices suffered. We believe that the source of hurt is always external, and therefore, so is the power to wound us. But what if this is a fundamental misconception? What if the real origin of pain lies not in the actions of others, but in the meaning we assign to those actions? This chapter invites you to question that deeply rooted belief. When someone offends or disappoints us, our mind rushes to interpret the event, creating a story that often makes us the victim. The insult becomes a personal attack, the abandonment, a confirmation of unworthiness. This story, however, is not the objective truth. It is a narrative crafted by the mind to make sense of chaos. And it is this narrative, this interpretation, that holds the true power to hurt. The paradox is unsettling. The same event can cause agony in one person and indifference in another. Why? Because pain is not a direct result of external reality, but a reflection of the internal lens through which we view it. This lens is shaped by our beliefs, past experiences, fears, and unresolved wounds. Until we address the way we process and internalize experiences, we remain vulnerable to hurt, no matter the source. Understanding this shifts the focus inward. It means the key to freedom from pain is not changing others or controlling circumstances, but transforming how we relate to them. The moment you realize that no one can truly harm you without your consent, you reclaim your power. This is the foundation of the mental shift that protects you. Pain loses its grip, not because the world becomes gentler, but because your mind becomes wiser. In this chapter, we begin to unravel the illusion that external harm defines our suffering and open the door to true resilience. Pain becomes permanent only when we surrender the responsibility for it to someone else. In many relationships and interactions, the unspoken truth is that we give others the keys to our emotional kingdom without even realizing it. When we believe that others control our feelings, we become prisoners of their moods, their words, and their actions. But emotional ownership means reclaiming those keys and stepping into a role we rarely consider, being the sole guardian of our inner world. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that hurt doesn't exist. It is about understanding that while feelings arise naturally, How we respond to them is entirely within our control. The anger, sadness, or fear we experience is real. But what follows, how long it lingers, how deeply it affects us, and what story we tell ourselves about it is ours to shape. When someone criticizes or rejects us, the initial sting may be unavoidable, but the lingering pain, the self-doubt, and the endless rumination are not inevitable. They are choices made in the theater of the mind. To take emotional ownership is to see feelings as messengers, not masters. It means listening to the discomfort without allowing it to dictate our actions or self-worth. This mindset frees us from the tyranny of being at the mercy of others' behavior and words. Instead, it places the responsibility and the power squarely within ourselves. This shift is revolutionary because it dissolves the illusion that we are helpless victims. When we claim our emotions, we start to build an internal fortress, a place where outside storms may rage but cannot destroy. Emotional ownership is the soil where resilience grows. It's the first real step toward no longer being hurt by others, because we have learned to hold our own heart with strength and compassion. We often believe we can control how others respond to us, their words, their gestures, even their silence. This belief traps us in a relentless pursuit to manage external forces that are, by nature, uncontrollable. The truth is, no matter how much effort we pour into shaping another person's behavior, their reactions are theirs alone. Attempting to steer their feelings or opinions is like trying to catch smoke with bare hands, fragile, fleeting, and impossible to hold. This illusion creates suffering because when people don't respond as we expect, disappointment follows, often spiraling into resentment or self-blame. We ask ourselves what we did wrong, why we aren't enough, or what we could have done differently to avoid the pain. But these questions distract us from the core reality. Others' reactions reflect their inner world, their fears, biases, and unresolved wounds, not a direct commentary on our worth or value. Accepting this liberates us from the exhausting burden of emotional puppeteering. It teaches us to loosen our grip on the need to be understood, approved, or loved on someone else's terms. When we stop trying to control outcomes beyond our reach, we reclaim energy and focus for what truly matters: our own intentions, boundaries, and authenticity. The paradox is striking. Surrendering control over others does not mean losing power. Instead, it shifts power inward. We gain the freedom to engage with people from a place of presence, rather than desperation. Curiosity instead of anxiety. This shift allows relationships to breathe, to be honest and spontaneous, unshackled by the invisible chains of manipulation or fear. Understanding that we cannot control how others react becomes the foundation of emotional freedom. It is the mental shift that moves us from frustration to peace, from bondage to choice. When we stop trying to direct others, we start directing ourselves. Many believe freedom means escaping external circumstances, breaking free from toxic people, difficult environments, or oppressive systems. But true freedom is not about where you are or who surrounds you. It's about what's happening inside your mind. Emotional independence is the cornerstone of this inner liberation, yet it is one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal growth. Emotional independence means no longer relying on others to regulate your feelings. It means cultivating an internal sanctuary where your sense of peace and worth isn't at the mercy of someone else's moods, opinions, or approval. This doesn't imply shutting others out or becoming cold. Rather, it means becoming the primary source of your emotional nourishment. When you're emotionally dependent, every slight, criticism, or distance from others feels like a personal attack that can shake your entire world. You become vulnerable to manipulation, to the highs and lows dictated by others' inconsistent behavior. This roller coaster drains your energy and leaves you feeling powerless. But emotional independence flips the script. It invites you to build resilience from within by recognizing that feelings come and go, and none need to control your sense of self. You learn to acknowledge discomfort without needing immediate relief from external sources. This skill creates a stable foundation where you can stand firmly, regardless of chaos outside. With emotional independence, you stop chasing validation and start living according to your own values and boundaries. You become less reactive, more deliberate, and ultimately, freer. This is not a destination, but a daily practice. A commitment to yourself that no matter what happens, your emotional well-being is your responsibility and no one else's. This shift redefines power. It is no longer about controlling others, but about mastering your inner world. That is the essence of true freedom. It's tempting to believe that avoiding painful feelings protects us from hurt. We distract ourselves with work, social media, or endless planning, convincing ourselves that if we don't face the discomfort, it will disappear. But emotional avoidance is a silent trap that only deepens our suffering. When you push away your feelings, they don't vanish. They get buried beneath the surface, growing stronger and more insistent. The mind uses avoidance as a shield, but this shield becomes a cage, limiting your ability to fully experience life. It creates a disconnect between your true self and the persona you present to the world. Avoidance might look like numbness, but underneath is a simmering tension. You feel restless, anxious, or irritable without knowing why. You might notice patterns of repeating the same mistakes or finding yourself stuck in toxic relationships. This is your emotional system signaling a blockage, a refusal to confront what needs healing. Facing emotions doesn't mean drowning in them. It means recognizing them as messages, not enemies. Pain, anger, sadness, they are invitations to understand yourself deeper. When you allow yourself to feel fully, you break the cycle of running and hiding. You reclaim control over your inner world. This courage to feel transforms vulnerability from a threat into a source of strength. You stop fearing emotional discomfort and start seeing it as a natural part of growth. The moment you lean into your feelings, the power of avoidance dissolves and you begin to move freely again. True healing emerges not from escape, but from presence. It is in showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, that you discover how resilient and whole you really are. Emotional avoidance may seem safe, but it's freedom's greatest enemy. The moment you stop blaming others for your pain is the moment you start reclaiming your power. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeing yourself as a victim, hurt by circumstances, betrayed by people, or trapped by events beyond your control. But this mindset chains you to helplessness, giving away your ability to change your inner experience. Radical responsibility means owning every part of your emotional life, even the parts that feel unbearable or unfair. It doesn't mean taking blame for what isn't your fault, but it means refusing to hand over your peace to anyone or anything outside yourself. You choose how to respond, and in that choice lies your freedom. When you stop reacting unconsciously and start observing your feelings and triggers with honest curiosity, you dissolve the power they have over you. The wounds others inflicted lose their grip when you recognize your role in nurturing or resisting those wounds. This is not about guilt, but awareness and clarity. Taking responsibility doesn't mean isolating yourself or suppressing your pain. It means acknowledging your feelings without excuses and committing to healing and growth. This shift transforms the way you interact with the world. You stop being a passive recipient of life's blows and become an active creator of your inner landscape. In this space, forgiveness is possible, not for others to absolve them, but for yourself, to release the hold of resentment and anger. You no longer need external validation to feel worthy or safe. Your power radiates from within, grounded in the knowledge that no matter what happens, you control your response. Radical responsibility is the foundation for lasting freedom. It's the key that unlocks your ability to stand firm when life tries to shake you and to rebuild yourself stronger after every fall. Only by embracing this truth do you become truly unbreakable. Emotional detachment is often misunderstood as shutting down or becoming cold, but true detachment is a skill that frees you from being overwhelmed without losing your capacity to feel. It's the ability to observe your emotions without becoming a hostage to them, a vital step in protecting yourself from repeated hurt. When you learn to step back from your feelings, you create a safe distance that lets you see them clearly, rather than being consumed by their storm. This clarity reveals the stories and beliefs behind your emotional reactions, exposing old wounds and false narratives that keep you stuck. Detachment is not about avoidance. It's about presence with awareness. Without this skill, emotions like anger, fear, or sadness can hijack your mind, driving impulsive actions or endless rumination. Emotional detachment allows you to pause, recognize what's happening inside, and choose a response aligned with your well-being. This space is where true freedom begins, where you can feel pain without drowning in it. Importantly, detachment is not numbness. You don't stop caring or shut off your heart. Instead, you cultivate a balanced relationship with your inner world, one where emotions inform rather than control you. You become a witness to your feelings, honoring them without letting them dictate your worth or decisions. Mastering emotional detachment means practicing presence, breathing through discomfort, and allowing feelings to flow without resistance. It's a way to protect your energy and maintain your center, even in difficult relationships or challenging circumstances. This art frees you from the cycles of reactivity and victimhood. It's the space where you reclaim your sovereignty and refuse to be emotionally manipulated or drained. When you master this, you realize that emotions are not enemies, but messengers, and your calm awareness becomes the shield that no one can pierce. Codependency disguises itself as love and loyalty, but beneath the surface, it's a trap that keeps you tethered to others' needs at the expense of your own identity. It thrives on fear, the fear of abandonment, rejection, or being alone. When you live from this place, your sense of self becomes diluted, lost in the desperate attempt to secure connection through approval and sacrifice. Recognizing codependency means facing the uncomfortable truth that your emotional survival has been linked to someone else's moods, actions, or validation. You may find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly adjusting who you are to avoid conflict or to be enough. This pattern creates exhaustion and resentment, even as you convince yourself it's a small price to pay for belonging. Breaking free begins with honoring your own needs and boundaries without guilt. It's learning to say no when your soul screams for rest, to speak your truth when silence suffocates you, and to nurture your worth independently of how others treat you. The hardest step is embracing solitude, not as punishment, but as a sacred space to rediscover who you really are. In codependency, the lines between love and control blur. Your desire to fix, rescue, or please others can mask an unconscious effort to maintain a fragile attachment. Freedom arrives when you relinquish the need to manage others' emotions and accept that true connection flows from two whole individuals, not two halves, desperate to be made complete. Reclaiming your autonomy doesn't mean abandoning relationships. It means transforming them. When you heal the codependency wound, you no longer cling or fear loss because you stand rooted in your own power. Only then can love become a choice instead of a necessity, and only then can no one ever hurt you again. Pain is often seen as something to avoid or suppress, but what if it holds the key to your freedom? The wounds we carry shape us, but they don't have to define us. When you learn to face your suffering head-on, without flinching or turning away, it becomes a powerful teacher. This shift is about stepping into your pain, not as a victim, but as a warrior who claims their strength from vulnerability. The mental shift here is radical. Instead of resisting discomfort, you lean into it. Every ache, every scar carries a message, a map of your inner landscape waiting to be understood. By naming your pain and owning your story, you dismantle its ability to control you. This process transforms pain from a source of weakness into the raw material of resilience. Many people try to numb their pain with distractions or denial, but these are temporary fixes that only deepen the wound. True healing begins when you stop running and begin listening. When you allow yourself to feel fully, you activate your mind's natural capacity to adapt and grow. This is where emotional alchemy happens, the ability to turn suffering into wisdom, confusion into clarity. Power doesn't come from avoiding hardship. It comes from mastering your response to it. This means cultivating a mindset that sees challenges as invitations to evolve rather than threats to your safety. It's about reclaiming agency over your inner world, realizing that no external event can injure your core without your consent. When pain is no longer your enemy, you become unstoppable. You gain the freedom to create your life from a place of authenticity and courage. This is the essence of true empowerment, an unshakable strength born from embracing your deepest wounds and rising beyond them. Most people live in a shadow of blame, looking outward for the source of their pain, confusion, or failure. It's easier to say, "They hurt me," "Life is unfair," or "I was dealt a bad hand." But this mindset chains you to victimhood and keeps you trapped in cycles of helplessness. The real mental shift lies in owning every aspect of your experience, not to carry guilt or self-judgment, but to reclaim your power. Radical responsibility means no longer outsourcing your emotional state or your reactions. You become the captain of your inner world, recognizing that your feelings and responses are yours to manage. When you accept this, you cut the cords of emotional dependency that allow others to control or diminish you. This is freedom in its rawest form. The ability to choose how you engage with life, regardless of external circumstances. This shift is not about blaming yourself for what happened or pretending you had control where you didn't. Instead, it's about acknowledging your role in what unfolds, even if that role is simply how you respond to events. The moment you take responsibility for your internal state, the power dynamic changes. You are no longer at the mercy of other people's actions or the chaos around you. In this space, forgiveness becomes possible, not as a gift to others, but as liberation for yourself. Forgiveness is an act of radical self-respect, a declaration that you refuse to let past wounds dictate your future. By embracing radical responsibility, you step into a life where your peace is self-generated, untouchable by outside forces. This is the ultimate mental shift. Freedom rooted not in circumstances, but in unwavering ownership of your experience. From here, nobody can hurt you again, not because life is gentle, but because your mind has become unbreakable. Your life story is not just a series of events. It's the narrative you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. For many, this story is written by others, childhood voices, past traumas, or societal expectations. These inherited scripts can trap you in patterns of limitation, fear, or self-doubt without you even realizing it. The final mental shift is about reclaiming authorship of your story, breaking free from those external scripts, and consciously rewriting your identity. When you recognize that the story you've been living is not fixed, you open the door to transformation. The painful chapters don't have to define you. They can become sources of strength, lessons, rather than prisons. This is not about ignoring your past, but integrating it with new meaning. You become the narrator who chooses which parts to emphasize, which voices to listen to, and which beliefs to discard. This shift changes everything because it places you at the center of your own life. Instead of being a passive character reacting to circumstances, you become an active creator. The way you interpret your past shapes your present reality and your future possibilities. By reclaiming your story, you gain control over your identity and your destiny. This process requires courage. It means facing uncomfortable truths and challenging long-held assumptions about yourself. But with every piece you reclaim, you build a stronger, more resilient self that can withstand external pressures without collapsing. Ultimately, this mental shift makes you untouchable, not by shielding you from pain, but by giving you the power to rise above it. When you write your own story with intention and love, nobody can hurt you again because you hold the pen and the ending is yours to create.